You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
One hit is all you need to make the money guaranteed, and you can live off royalties forever. And it makes me wonder, is it just a blunder, or is it one hit thunder?
Hey guys, it's the 15th episode of One Hit Thunder. We've made it 15 delightful episodes, and it's also the return of Chris. Yay!
Here I am.
So we wanted to take this episode kind of as like a moving Chris back into the host seat, but also to like kind of go over a few things. Well, I wanted to allow Chris to talk about the 5 episodes that he didn't host, if he had any opinions that he wanted to say on any of these bands that he wanted to get out there. So we'll start with the first one I did solo was the Toadies, Possum Kingdom. Any thoughts on the Toadies there, Chris?
Let me first start by saying you did a great job of hosting all the episodes.
Oh, thank you.
You left like some pretty big shoes to fill if I'm stepping back in, because you're very knowledgeable and you always keep it interesting. As far as the Toadies go, I'm not a fan of the Toadies. I don't know. It's strange because it seems like so many people that I know, that when I told them or they found out about this podcast, brought up the Toadies, and I'm like, I don't know, just something about the southernness of them or something really doesn't. I remember always seeing that CD and like the Columbia House things or whatever when I was figuring out which ones I would pick if I would do that. I never actually did it, but the Toadies were never on that list. Not a big fan of that guy's voice. I know they're probably a great band, and it was interesting hearing about their background and how, I think you said that guy came from like a strange religious background, like really like over the top.
Yeah, the whole album's like almost a concept album of him working out his understanding of like the extreme Christianity he was raised in. It's a weird album.
Right. Well, I mean, that's interesting, but it just their sound wasn't my thing. That's
yeah. All right, so then the next one was actually the only band that I had never heard of the episodes that I'd done, the Boomtown Rats. I Don't Like Mondays.
Yeah, that was a very interesting episode, and your guest was very knowledgeable on the band as well. I wasn't familiar with that song either, but the story behind it, about it being, I was a little unsure. Was it a kid that went into school?
She was a 16-year-old who shot up in elementary school.
Okay. And then her reason for doing that was that she said she didn't like Mondays.
Yeah.
So it was definitely pretty interesting. Once again, I didn't know the song. I think the song's okay now when I listen to it, but I just wasn't, I don't have the nostalgia aspect of that song. For some reason it missed my ears, but that was a great episode.
Yeah, that's probably the first one. Well, no, Super Drag was the big one for me, where I had never heard the song, and then you guys did the Super Drag one. I'm like, okay, this band rules. But Boomtown Rats is another one that I kind of...
No Sucked Out?
No, remember? You guys both were giving me shit about it.
Wow. That's crazy.
So then there was the Devo Whippet episode.
Yeah, I love Devo.
Dude, Devo's so good.
And it was awesome. You had Matt from Wheatus on. He's a great dude, and it was coming from a musical background, just to appreciate Devo and the eccentric, artsy, just, it is really interesting that a band like that could achieve such a mainstream success playing the type of music that they play. But the 80s were a perfect time for that, I think, especially with a song like Whip It. I mean, that song's incredible. That band's incredible. Just their entire thing. Like, I went and watched, I think you guys talked about it on the episode, but watched their Saturday Night Live performance. It's awesome.
So weird.
It's so awesome.
It's so, yeah, I mean, you talk about stuff being punk rock, and like Devo is not a band that's often in that conversation, but they are some of the most punk rock motherfuckers of that decade for sure.
I can't remember if you guys talked about it on the episode, but did I could be really wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure that Mark Mothersbaugh was at Kent State at the Kent State shooting, and I believe that he was like right there, like next to the people that got shot or something.
Jesus.
I could be way off on that, but
I
pretty
think that's
sure.
probably true. I know we didn't talk about that on the episode, but I think I've heard that. Now that you've brought that up, I feel like I did hear that
I
somewhere.
mean, maybe,
before.
I don't know if it was him or maybe a different guy from Devo, but I kind of feel like that's something that even before we did this podcast, I was, for one reason or another, I was reading about Devo and found out that their name came from devolution and all these things about, how they saw society crumbling, how appropriate. And, that was one of the things I read about it. And I can't imagine if you were there to experience that would be that would be the source of a long chain of events of artistic expression that became Devo. So.
Yeah, but on the more positive thing, I kind of already know your opinion of this one from a deleted thing from a previous episode, but SR-71 right now.
The song is a overproduced radio whatever. Like it sounds like I've seen this this meme about ska music, but basically the song is what a kid hears in his head when he gets extra mozzarella sticks is what it is. And it's like, that song to me would be like what you would play at Guantanamo Bay to torture people or something. Like it's just so bad. It's just such a bad song. Like hearing you guys talk about how much you like that song, it just hurt my heart, because I'm like, this is the most emotionless. Like it's like as if they programmed a computer and said, write a pop punk song, and then the computer went, okay, here you go.
Yeah, here's a fake plastic submarine.
Yeah, like it's just I don't know, man. It's music's, it's all opinion, whatever, but like I just, songs with no emotion behind them. And you can, pop punk music can have emotion behind it, of course. Any type of music can have, but like that just feels so like sterile to me, that song. And it's probably why even back when it came out, like, yeah, part of my problem was like, I felt like, okay, where'd this band come from? I've never heard of them, but I'm sure there's lots of music I haven't heard of. But even back then, I just felt like I could see right through that song and that band. Like, and I guess I don't mean disrespect, but I also don't care. I don't care what SR-71 thinks.
Well, and then new friends of the podcast, absolutely Story of a Girl by 9 Days.
Yeah, that's pretty cool that they reached out. They listened to the episode and reached out. I thought that was really cool.
That caught me off guard. I was like, oh, because I always tag everybody. I tagged Tom Cochran in the episode. We did like I'm just like, whatever, maybe they'll retweet it, but very rarely do I actually anticipate that they'll write to us, and that caught me off guard.
I think 9 Days is pretty cool. Like I had that album that, I liked that song. I couldn't help but like that song. I wasn't even, at that point, do you remember what year that was?
That was 2000. It came right out at the kick of the 2000s.
Okay, so by then, so I would say that major props to 9 Days, because by 2000, I personally was so like, I was in college and I was so like into like whatever I liked, whether indie rock and punk rock and whatever, and very I don't know, probably jaded about pop music. And I still bought that album. And there was, I wish I should have looked. I didn't know we were going to be talking about this. I should have looked at what the other song on that album that I really liked was. But yeah, I thought they were a decent pop band. I did notice that you guys during your conversation were referring to them as like a pop punk band, but I never thought of them as that. I've thought of them as like mainstream pop rock band maybe.
Yeah,
but like there's no
when I tweeted at them when he tweeted that he was gonna listen to it, I said, I hope you're not offended that for some reason we keep referring to you as pop punk. Because I was like, why are we keep bringing it back to pop punk? I think it was because we were also talking about the pop punk documentary, and it just kept like, but I meant power pop throughout most of that discussion.
I can see that, but they would have they were kind of like a better version of like the other bands of that era that were all like, I don't know, like this is probably it's probably an insult to them, but like I think of like bands like Del Amitri, and which you could very easily do an episode on here, or like the Rembrandts, although I guess they were more of like a theme song band or whatever. Well, but still. Let me look at
what. So this is exactly what 9 Days said to us, and they mention a few bands that I think are kind of what you're looking for. But they said it was a great conversation. We enjoyed listening to it. As far as the band is concerned, you got most of the information right. We didn't start as a heavy metal band, but Brian and I were guitarists in a band before 9 Days that was way more rock oriented. With the exception of our drummer Vincent, who left the band in 2016, we've had the original lineup since 1995, and we're still making music and playing shows occasionally and working on a new record as we speak. Thank you for talking about us. Kyle's documentary sounds super interesting, and it also features past guest Steve of Punchline in that documentary. I will say that we were all about 27, 28 years old in the summer that Story of a Girl blew up in the 2000s. And we think that we were the last of a musical generation right before the big pop punk bands came out. So if you look at 2002 to 2003, that was really the end of the bigger success bands that were similar to us, like SR-71, Vertical Horizon, Stroke 9, American Hi-Fi, and to a certain extent, Third Eye Blind.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Third Eye Blind's a good example of like, that band's not punk at all, but like they're just, you know, catchy rock, soft rock, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that it's one of those things where it's like, I think that Third Eye Blind and Story of a Girl are like songs that aren't pop punk songs, but are definitely songs that I feel like pop punk fans like in like a weird way. Like I've heard so many pop punk bands cover Story of a Girl or like Graduate by Third Eye Blind. That's like, okay, well, clearly they came out at the right time to make an influence on the people who would later form bands a couple years later. And then the last one, which I really was hoping you would be the host on because you know this band way more intimately than I do, but we recorded an episode on Squeeze.
Right, and I haven't heard that one yet, but yeah, I think Squeeze is great. Of course, is the episode about Tempted?
Yes.
Okay, I would assume, but like they have some like really awesome songs like Up the Junction and Pulling Muscles from the Shell, and you know, I kind of Steve likes Squeeze a lot. I think he discovered them years back and would play them in the van, and then but I had actually known that Up the Junction song from because Goldfinger covered it when I was like a teenager, and I had the and I had the 7-inch. It was like on the B side of a 7-inch, and at the time I didn't even know it was a cover song, but then I found out it was Squeeze. I don't I just basically know some more Squeeze songs. I think they're a really cool band. They sound ahead of their time. They sound like a band that if they came out right now, they would be popular and a very cool band, you know? So,
well, and that was the funny thing for us when we were talking about it, and we addressed it up front. It's not to the same extent as a Rick Springfield, but like Squeeze is technically not a one-hit wonder. They had 3 songs that were on the Billboard Top 100, and that Tempted was the lowest charting of those 3 songs.
Really? What were the other 2?
Hourglass and I can't remember the numbers, but it's a phone number. It's like 864, like it's just like 7 random numbers. Okay. But yeah, and that's what we were talking about. We're like, you know, they're technically not a one-hit wonder, but their lowest charting hit is really the only one that people still remember in the mainstream. So I guess it counts? ?
Right.
Ready for a head-bangingly good time? Dive into the world of heavy metal with the Brutally Delicious podcast. Here, we don't just talk music. We welcome you into our heavy metal family. Join us for candid chats with legends and rising stars. We go beyond the typical interviews, exploring raw emotions and the life-altering impact of heavy metal. So whether you're a diehard metalhead or just curious, join our family and let the headbanging begin with the Brutally Delicious podcast.
Hi, this is Krista Makes, host of Krista Makes a Podcast. The theme of the podcast is songwriting. Each week, my musical guest picks a defining song from their career to discuss, critique, and analyze during the show. So please join me for some fun and insight into some of the greatest songs ever written and recorded. Listen and subscribe at soundtalentmedia.com.
But yeah, so there was those. That's what has happened. I want to talk about a few bands on our Facebook page, and even when people are trying to pick bands to cover for One Hit Thunder that have come up that I would like to address with you as do you think that we should cover any of these bands for One Hit Thunder?
Okay,
So
let's hear 'em.
So the first one that was submitted was the band Fuel.
Well, I
would say they had 2 or 3.
Well, the thing is, the only song that I know the name of from them is Shimmer.
Yeah.
I actually like that. That's like another one of those songs that's like in that era of 9 Days and stuff like that. I think Fuel was a little more guitar heavy, but yeah, but and I don't even know if Shimmer, I guess, was a hit. I guess
Shimmer was a hit, and I think it's of their hits, I think it's their best song. But they had the other 2. There was Hemorrhage, which was that "Leave Love Bleeding in my hands again."
Okay, I think.
And Bad Day.
That one sounds familiar. I definitely know the other one. So I don't know, probably not. And they had like, it seems like they had modern rock hits, but as far as being like
a crossover band,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
So the other one in a similar vein that someone submitted was the Wallflowers.
Well, didn't they have 2 songs that were very similar to each other and they were both hits? Wasn't there one Headlight and then 6th Avenue or 5th Avenue Heartache or whatever it was called?
Yeah, 6th Avenue Heartache. And then they also, minor hits, but I still always remembered there was The Difference. The only difference.
Dude,
yeah.
They're not a one-hit wonder. They have multiple hits, so no on them. Fuel's questionable, probably a no on them too, but Wallflowers, no.
So here's the one that I remember when someone submitted this to the group. You texted me within seconds. Fiona Apple.
No. And by the way, her new album came out yesterday, and it is wild and it is awesome. And if you should check it out. It's called something about bolt cutters or something about something about bolt cutters. It's great though. But Fiona Apple, what did the song they submit, was it Criminal?
Yeah, but I was like,
but
beyond
Fast
Criminal.
As You Can, Paper Bag, like Fast As You Can was a big song too.
Shadowboxer.
Yeah, dude.
Sleep to Dream.
Yeah, no, she is not a one-hit wonder.
And technically my favorite Fiona Apple song is, I think that she still holds the record for me as like one of the best covers of a Beatles song, because I love her version of Across the Universe.
It's better than the Beatles version.
I agree. And that's one of my favorite Beatles songs, but I think that she did a much better take of it.
Yeah, I mean, they wrote the song. I'm not saying that she's better than the Beatles, but I'm saying her rendition of it is my preferred rendition of it. It is awesome. I love her song "Never Is a Promise." It's just a really sad piano ballad that's just, I don't know, very beautiful song.
Yeah, and go check out her new album, Fetch the Bolt Cutters.
Fetch the Bolt Cutters. That's what it is. It just came out yesterday, so I but it is like, I saw someone compare it to like Brian Wilson. I think someone compared it to, just in its the wild songwriting and musicianship of it, and the creativity of it is just like, it's really appropriate for right now. I know we're probably trying to keep this podcast pretty evergreen, but
Yeah.
we are in quarantine during coronavirus. So like for that album to come out right now, once you start listening to it, you'll be like, oh, okay, this is perfect.
Yeah, no, 100%. So this is one that I would agree is debatable if I wasn't such a music nerd about this stuff, but the Sugar Hill Gang.
I would say yes, they are.
Yeah, so I think they technically have 2 hits. Like everyone knows them for Rapper's Delight.
Right.
But people forget that they also did Apache, also known as the Carlton Dance song.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I feel like that's technically the bigger song of the 2. Like Rapper's Delight's important, but Apache is the one that you know.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess I didn't realize that was them. So yeah, they're not a one-hit wonder. They have 2 hits. That's crazy.
So here's one that maybe it's just because I was, youth group kid, but I put my foot down when someone submitted POD as a one-hit wonder.
So they had So Alive.
Yeah.
Is that the one that was submitted?
That was Alive was the one that was submitted, which I don't even think was their highest charting because Youth of the Nation was like right after.
Yeah, Youth of the Nation. Yeah, okay.
But then like Boom, I thought Boom was everywhere.
I remember that one.
Boom, here comes the boom, ready or not.
That's
here
them?
comes the that's them as well.
All right.
And I remember Southtown and Rock the Party, but I think that was one.
Southtown, yeah, okay, man. POD brought the hits. I didn't even realize that. Okay, but Alive would be the first one I'd think of.
Yeah,
but it's funny because the Youth of a Nation. I don't know why we did this, but like 2006 or 7, our friend Jonathan London made a Punchline Christmas. We made a Christmas music video. We needed for our record label at the time. They wanted all the bands to do like a Christmas greeting. So like we made this song. It was like a Christmas rap, and for some reason, we at the end of it just break into that Youth of a Nation song. I don't know why. And then Jonathan London made the music video for us because we were in LA. So we went like by the Hollywood sign and stuff, and like I don't know. It was
We are Youth of the Nation. We are Youth of the Nation. We are Youth of the Nation. We are Merry Christmas.
silly, but still to this day, people like will post that on my Facebook wall during the holidays and stuff. But yeah, we sing a POD song at the end.
one of the ones from the 90s that someone submitted that again was like, I can never remember if the songs that I love so much were ever actually hits, but Better Than Ezra.
I only know, well, Good is the song. I know they had a like cult following.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if that's what it was, because I always remember like Good is, yes, that is their hit, but I always remembered Desperately Waiting when it was like, I remember running through the wet grass, falling a step behind.
Oh.
Yeah, but
that sounds familiar. But that also, the way you're singing that sounds like Tracy Chapman Fast Car. So
it was,
I don't know, but that does sound familiar to me.
They were the Tracy Chapman of grunge.
Yeah. Well, I would say that despite a cult following they are a one-hit wonder. I would say Good is their one hit. So I would allow that one.
Well, okay, if someone suggests that one, I'll make sure to let it slide. This is the only 80s one there's 2 80s ones that I've had to say, nay, they were not one-hit wonders. And the one was Roxette.
Roxette Must Have Been Love.
Yeah.
Right? And Roxette also sang Joyride?
I think so. They also sang Listen to Your Heart.
Oh, yeah. Listen to Your
Heart. I was like, Roxette had hits for days.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. No, Roxette was a hit maker, yeah.
Now this one, I'd be okay with us doing an episode on, because even if he might technically be a 2-hit wonder, but I think he doesn't get enough credit. Was someone submitted Joe Jackson?
Joe Jackson. I mean, he's not a one, because what are you thinking of? Is she really going out with him? Is that the song?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Stepping Out's a
Yeah.
hit. I love Stepping Out. That's the
Yeah,
jam.
he's a 2-hit wonder.
And
but man,
also, I'm the Man. You know I'm the Man?
I know I'm the Man. It's his second album too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's such a good song. They use it in Freaks and Geeks. They're listening to it when
Oh, the
when-
car accident.
Yeah, yep.
Because he wants to listen to the bass line. He's like, oh, this bass line's
Yeah.
so good.
Because they're talking shit. They're acting like new wave is bad or something. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Dude, Joe Jackson, if you haven't listened to some Joe Jackson, go pick up like his first 2 or 3 albums because they're
He's
all
great.
great.
Yeah, he's great.
Look Sharp. Look Sharp's a great record. So, not the biggest fan of this band, but definitely had more than one hit. Someone submitted 303.
Of course, I know who the band is, but I couldn't have told. I just know they were like on Warped Tour and stuff, but I couldn't tell you a song by them. I'd say they're a no-hit wonder, so they don't qualify either.
They were in there with LMAFO.
Well, they had a hit. Well, they had a hit.
Yeah.
That song. I mean, say what you will about LMFAO. That song, that was like undeniable party song. I think it was called Party Song, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was gonna say technically it was the two because they had the party rock anthem and they had the "I'm Sexy and I Know It" songs. Both were like pretty inescapable party jams for a really long time.
Yeah.
And this is the last one that I think is super. I would say not even remotely debatable. Was The Prodigy.
Well, there was Firestarter. Was like, is that the one that was submitted?
Yeah, they submitted Firestarter, but I was like, what about Breathe? Breathe was everywhere.
About to smack my bitch up.
Yeah. One of the best videos.
Yeah.
One of the most creative videos, I'll say.
I'll never forget. It's an awesome video, man. It's very artistic, but I'll never forget that when I saw that video, it was like the first time that I think I had MTV on at like, it was like 11 o'clock or something, and Kurt Loder came on and talked about the video and how they were going to show the video because one reason or another we're going to show this video. I forget, like, because they thought it was an important video to show or something like that, but then, you know, there were naked girls in it and stuff, and there were like, I don't know, there was like lots of drugs in it, and there were lots of like they showed. That was the first time I ever saw something on like basic cable where I was like, what?
Yeah. The first time I saw it was I had to download it because it wasn't, I was like, I kept hearing about it and I was in high school. So it was well after the song had come out and I had heard all these stories of this music video. And I was in a film class and we were about to shoot music videos and we were told, like, you know, dig into like some of the more artistic videos that you can find. And I was like, I need to see this Smack My Bitch Up video.
Yeah.
And like, it is an insane music video and a very creative music video. And then the last two that I have on here, I'm sure in some weird fucked up, if you look at like crossover hits, then technically, but Weezer and Everclear.
Oh my God. Give me a break. Well, give me a break. Give me a break on Weezer, first of all. Like, that's just insanity to suggest that Weezer has had a career of like 30 years with like big songs every. That's just ludicrous. Everclear, not a fan of Everclear, but they definitely had Santa Monica, and then what's that? Father of Mine. I Will Buy You a New Life. Yeah.
Was pretty high up there. Everything to Everyone.
Yeah.
When I said that we were doing 9 days, the hint that I posted was 4 Year Strong covered this song, and so many people were like, oh, Everclear. And I was like, what? Like,
is 4 Year Strong one of those bands that just covers every band?
They put out an album of 90s covers. It was like an 11-track 90s covers album, and not only did they cover Everclear, but they covered a B-side by Everclear. So it was like, why would you think that we would not even... One of my friends, Dylan, messaged me. He's like, what are these people talking about? Like, no. Because Everclear's had more than one hit. B, the song that 4 Year Strong covered wasn't a hit by Everclear. Yeah. So it's like a double no.
Yeah.
But so that's pretty much all I had planned for this before we, next week we'll be right back into talking about bands that brought the one-hit thunder with Chris steering the car again. But Chris, thank you for giving me the opportunity to host a few of these while you were handling some Punchline stuff and, getting your life situated with all the lockdown and quarantine stuff. But it's good to have you back.
Yeah, man, glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
This has been One Hit Thunder. One Hit Thunder is produced by Matt Kelly as part of the Geekscape Network and hosted by Chris Fafalios of the bands Punchline, Pack, and Another Cheetah. Maybe I'm Wrong off Punchline's album Just Say Yes is playing underneath me right now. Visit punchlion.com for updates as well as news, merch, and upcoming tour dates. Let us know your thoughts on the show by emailing us at onehitthunderpodcast@gmail.com. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting apps. Stay safe out there, love each other, and soon we'll be able to hug you all. But until then, tune in next week for another episode of One Hit Thunder.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.
Ready for a head-bangingly good time? Dive into the world of heavy metal with the Brutally Delicious podcast. Here, we don't just talk music. We welcome you into our heavy metal family. Join us for candid chats with legends and rising stars. We go beyond the typical interviews, exploring raw emotions and the life-altering impact of heavy metal. So whether you're a diehard metalhead or just curious, join our family and let the headbanging begin with the Brutally Delicious podcast.
What's up, everybody? I am Finn McKenty, host of the Punk Rock NBA podcast, part of the Sound Talent Media podcast network. My podcast is all about doing what you love for a living, and every week I sit down and talk to people who have done exactly that. For example, musicians like Tommy from Between the Buried and Me, Matt from Periphery, Lil Lotus and Shinigami, among many others, photographers, artists, designers, YouTubers like Glenn Fricker and Sarah Dici, and I unpack exactly how they got to where they are today with the goal of helping you do the same. So if that sounds cool, you can listen and subscribe at soundtalentmedia.com, and I'll see you there.